Okay, there's a couple of extra things we can do to this to improve it. Earlier we've recessed the panel pins by using the nail punch to set them below the surface about 1mm. Still not 100% happy with that. This surface is awfully dirty. Although I've planed this surface, this surface, this surface. I've sanded the ends to finish the end grain using the belt sander. I still feel I need to do something to this. What we must say here is you must not use the plane on this surface. It may come in contact with the panel pins and that will destroy the blade in the plane. So do not plane this. Yes, you may have found it successful for doing this and making it really smooth and beautifully clean. And it would work, but it would potentially damage the plane if it hit one of the panel pins. So do not do this. So the way we're going to work on that is use one of these sandpaper boards. So we'll use that in a back and forwards motion for maybe 5 minutes and it will clean this surface up beautifully. Okay, so I'd started doing this a while back and I have a reasonably clean surface now, certainly clean enough to move on. Your teacher might have a look at it and ask you to continue, ask you to do more. Maybe the teacher will ask you to use a sandpaper board on this end, or on this surface, or on this end. You might be asked to go back to the belt sander to do these end grains, but you'll never be asked to plane this surface. What we are going to do though is mark a particular type of design on the edges round about this surface, and it's going to be called a chamfer. We're going to remove material and put an angled surface all the way around here, and we're going to do that using what's called the marking gauge. So the marking gauge, you can see it's got a sticker on it telling you the name. We can loosen a little thumb screw here in the marking gauge and move it back and forwards, and I'm going to set it to a gap of 6mm. Let me do that using a steel rule. Basically what we do is line up the steel rule against this flat surface and line up the marking of the steel rule against this pin called the spur. I'm just going to adjust that until the little pin called the spur is pointing at 6mm, and I'm going to tighten the thumb screw. Sometimes it moves when you do that, so I'm just going to double check. It doesn't seem to have been too bad, but you can make fine adjustments just by tapping to close the gap or tapping the other way to open the gap. That can make a small difference of about 0.5 mm. I'm now going to use that to mark a line parallel to the edge. I think we need to be careful here that we pay attention to what edge and what surface we're actually going to be marking on. It's going to be this surface, the one that's got your slot in it for your plastic clock design. It's this surface that we're going to put the chamfer onto. If we ended up doing it on this surface, then we would make something that would rock back and forward if that was the base. That's not to say that later on we might not decide to put some kind of design round about this edge, but that will have to be done through a conversation with your teacher and working out what's best for you, because you could quite easily spoil your design by rounding or chamfering this surface. So it's this surface we'll work on. So I'm holding this in my hand, closed round about it. I'm holding this with my forefinger and my thumb. I've got some of my fingers wrapping around there. I'm just going to use it to score a line parallel to the edge down it. You might find this is easy. You might find this is quite hard if you've never done it before. You can also, if you feel you have to, put this in the vise and work on it gradually like that. I'm just going to do it holding it in my hand. I'm going to take it around the corner there, and I'm going to score along there too. And I'm going to do it down the other edge. And eventually I'll get to the end there, and I'll turn the corner and I'll end up where I started. So now I have a rectangle of scored lines running all the way around there, there, back down here, round here to where I started. And every single one of these scored lines is parallel to that edge. So this one's parallel to this edge, this one's parallel to the end grain, this one's parallel to this edge, this one here parallel to the end grain. And that's what this tool's for. It's for lines parallel to an edge. I'm going to do that here too. So again, it's the side that's closest to the slot. This piece of the tool, called the stock, this surface here is going to be running on the surface where the slot is cut. I'm going to go right the way around the timber and back to where I've started. Okay, so I've now got to put pencil in this slot where you can see actually what the marking gauge has done. Let's put a score along there parallel to the edge, and it's the same here. Let's put a score parallel to the edge. I don't want it to be too deep because at the end of the day we just spent a little bit of time planing this to make it really smooth, so we wouldn't want to ruin it by putting massive gouges into it. But you can see what the marking gauge does. It puts lines that are parallel to an edge. It's important to know that for marking out in all of the projects, S2, S3, S4 and beyond. Marking gauges are commonly used tool. You don't have to put pencil into the marks. Carpenters and joiners use things like marking gauges because they don't put black marks in your wood. But for the purpose of the video and to show you clearly, this is what the marking gauge should have put onto your wood. Now we're going to use the plane to plane at an angle. So I'm going to put this in upright in the vise, and I'm going to get my plane. I'm going to hold it at a 45-degree angle. So what I'm aiming to do is to shave off material down to the lines that the marking gauge is left behind. I'm going to do that on this edge, and I'm going to do that on this edge. This short edge you do not plane. You'll actually be shown how to do that on the belt sander. You'll see the planing finished in the next video.